Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Podcasting Problem Solver. I'm Leah Bryant, your go-to podcast producer, certified growth coach, helping busy business owners launch on-brand, results-driven podcasts that support their business goals without the tech stress, content overwhelm, or burnout, because all of that is so real. Today's episode is a coaching session with the one and only Tanya Hayles. Tanya answered my call for a podcaster who wanted a coaching session on Threads, and I am super excited to dive into her show with you today. But before we get started, I'd like to introduce her. Tanya is a digital strategist and event consultant who lives at the intersection of culture, sports, tech, and community. I love that so much. She helps brands translate culture into connection and converts community into consumers. I mean, that is a bio right there.
Listen, if I know how to do one thing is write a good bio for myself. Other people, I'll do it for me.
I love it so much. But thank you so much for volunteering for this coaching session. I'm really excited to dive in. But before we do, I'd love for you to take a moment to tell folks about your podcast.
Sure. So it is called the Event Planning Bestie Show. It's still not rolling off the tongue for me, but that's what I've named it. And it is my joy project. I have been in events for 20 plus years. I've planned them. I had my own event planning agency, and then the world closed in 2020. So, I kind of had to do some shifts and pivots. I've done nonprofits. I've done big festivals and conferences. I'm an event nerd. I love going to events. I love judging events. I love giving people feedback on their events. And so this was just a way for me to share that information and knowledge in a fun way. And so whether it's just solo episodes by myself about a particular topic or interviewing amazing people, I interviewed a lady who did the Olympics, the Paris Olympics.
It's amazing.
And I was like, I want to be you when I grow up, right? I interviewed someone who's worked at ESPN and has done like all these different sports things, like the people who have been able to come across, and they weren't necessarily in my circle authentically, right? These are like as a result of doing the podcast has been amazing. So, we have one season in the books on hiatus for the summer because I had laryngitis and that's not sexy. And so we'll be back in September with season 2.
Super excited for that. And maybe we can implement, if you want to, some of these changes to help with making season 2 so amazing. Season 1 is amazing. I love it. I love what you're doing. I love how you're mixing your solo with what's like really like unique guests, right? Because not everybody is having these people on their podcast. And I think it's really amazing how you're bringing those conversations to folks. So the first thing that I want to do is start with the first thing that people see, which is your visual representation of your podcast, which I love your graphic that you have for the podcast. And I think it's super cute. Did you design that or did you have somebody else do that?
I had someone else design it for me because there was a point where I was thinking about, I really like the idea of like, I'm like your fairy godmother for events.
Yes.
And so that's where the wand came from, and just really being playful. The events are fun, right? They are very stressful. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry for sure. But at the end of it, I want people to feel like it's fun. It's still informative, but it's going to be fun and funny and engaging. So that's where the feel for, my little icon came from. And then, yeah.
So this is your current podcast cover.
Mm-hmm.
I will share my Google Doc with you so that way you have all my notes and links and all the stuff. But this is a fun website that I like to use to see what your podcast is going to look like in all the different various players that are out there. So they have like Apple, the Spotify, Pocket Cast, Podcast Addict, all the different things, the different ways of what it's going to look like. Now, that being said, I love your name with a tagline because your name, I think it's playful. It explains what it is. But I think if we add a tagline for who it's for and maybe what the promise is, I think that'll really pull people in. And then number 2, I love the graphic of you with the wand because it's just, again, playful. And I like that play on the event planning fairy godmother piece, right? So obviously you can always take these and not use it or get with your graphics person and
listen, I have my podcast notebook ready while we're talking. So it's funny because I did have a tagline and then it just felt like a lot of words on the logo watermark. that was my thing. I was like, where does this live, this tagline?
Mhm.
So that's where that went.
And I love that because you could still use this logo as a logo,
Mm-hmm.
but then I'll show you in my Google Doc sheet, and then I'll show you what it looks like in the players.
Mm-hmm.
And not that I'm opposed of having white as the background,
Okay.
but white doesn't stand out as much as if it was like a full color background.
Okay.
And that's something to think about. And I should have asked you what the colors were that you kind of tend to gravitate to with the podcast, but I just picked these colors out of the current one.
Yeah.
So we made the name of the podcast bigger.
Okay.
Because if you look here, like it's kind of hard to see what that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously it would be, the words would be here underneath the graphic, but if the words are huge where people are like, oh, I look right at that and know exactly what it is, it's going to help them out even more.
Right.
So, and I still kept your fun graphic because I think that's always important. And then I gave a couple different options for taglines. You can always tweak this, right? You could say for event planners who want to stand out.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other option that I have was add a little glow because it's like fairy godmother, helping planners become in-demand pros or turning behind-the-scene planners into booked experts. Obviously, you could play around with this, but the key thing is going to be who it's for and what kind of transition you're hoping for them to have from the podcast.
Okay.
Or you could do like tips and strategies for event planners or something like that, right? Like you could say what you're giving and who it's for.
Okay.
But essentially, you want to put like who it's for
In the taglines.
on your cover. Yeah, because that's going to help people a lot be able to see, okay, event planning bestie. I know it's going to be about event planners.
Right.
Or for event planners, but what else is it doing for me?
Got it.
So kind of thinking about it that way, because then if you go back to that same website and you pull it up, you can kind of like see the difference. Yes, the red does pop out at you, but see how big the name is. You're like, okay, I can read this. I know what it's for.
Right.
Probably even make the little tagline a little bigger too, depending on like what fonts you want to use.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with fonts is you want to keep them, you don't want anything fancy, not too whimsical or like cursive because it's really hard to read.
Yeah.
And so just thinking about those bigger like block text. And then here's what the one with the black would look like. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of the black because it does kind of blend in with everything. I'd actually probably not go with black. I'd probably do a different color.
Yeah.
Okay, and here's the red. I like the red actually.
Yeah.
I mean, you could play around too, right? Just something to pop that out at people to get their attention.
Yeah.
It's just minor changes, right? Just to kind of bring the name of the podcast and who and what it's for to the focal point.
Yeah.
So that would be my suggestion for that. And then obviously, if you don't like the name Event Planning Bestie, you could always change the name to something else. If you were to do that, what do you think you would change that to?
I think for me, I take a lot of time when I'm trying to build something from scratch and think through, how is it going to translate?
Right.
What emotions is it going to evoke? And while I'm turning 46 in like 3 weeks and Bestie could be deemed kind of juvenile, I think the whole thing was the podcast it truly is about joy. When I started out, it was just something like an idea. People have told me for years I should do a podcast. I've done radio before, I do public speaking. They just thought this was a logical thing. And then when I thought about it, my original podcast idea was to enter the motherhood space because I have a nonprofit that I've had in that particular space. But I was like, that's really oversaturated. And yes, it's something I could do with my eyes closed, but I was just like, I wasn't feeling passionate about it. It was just be something that I'd be doing for the sake of doing. And this was just really about, I love talking about events. I could talk about them all day, every day. And this is my way of doing that. It wasn't like, a lead gen and whatever. It wasn't until I started following certain people and certain folks like yourself coming across my timeline where I was just like, okay, maybe it could lead to something else. I've been working on an online course for DIY event planners and folks who can't afford to hire event planners for a really long time. So I was like, okay, maybe there's some tie-in there. I hadn't connected the dots to business. It really was just a passion project, so to speak. And I don't want to lose that. So that's part of why throwing planning in there was key, in terms of like keyword search and SEO and all that other stuff. I'm like, okay, that's my kind of concession of adding planning to it. But I kind of want to keep the bestie. I kind of want to be the person who's just like, no, I can call
Yes.
her up and she's going to give me the reel and she's going to do it in obviously a professional way, but she gets me. She's, the person I can like, I'm pulling my hair out and I don't know what's happening. I'm not selling tickets. It's like, calm down. Your bestie's here
Yes.
with a bag of chips and a case of Coke. We're going to figure it out.
Yes. And I can tell you, as someone who just turned 45 this year, I think Bestie is perfect. Especially in the context you're using it in. I don't
Mhm,
think that it would be perceived as juvenile. I think it's perfect. It's a very valid concern, though.
mhm,
But I think it's also in the language that you use within the show, within your show notes, and how you approach like the promotional pieces of it.
mhm.
Because I think that it can be juvenile, of course, if it goes that way. But the way that you're doing it, I think that it fits perfectly.
Yeah, I try not to lean too much into Gen Z talk for
Right.
sure, because they're not really my audience.
Right.
They love events, right? They love going to them and being influencers and taking pictures at them, but they are not necessarily the planners yet. There's going to come a point where they're planning their own weddings or they're launching their own businesses. If they are influencers, they're trying to make that transition, but it really is, for the millennials, for the Gen Xers, I think people who are in the industry, everything is old is new again. The event industry
Yes.
is very cyclical, but you can still learn. You can still teach an old dog new tricks. For me, despite the fact that it wasn't started out as a business podcast, so to speak, I still think through the target demographic. Who am I trying to reach? Who am I talking to? That's why like who the guests are matter, the topics of conversation, trying not to be to one particular region or country. I mean, obviously I focus on North America just because I live in North America,
Right.
but, really just being industry wide. And so in that way, when it does get bigger and I can have bigger conversations and I'm like, oh, I'm interviewing the person who produces the Super Bowl halftime show. That's a goal of mine.
I love it.
Or like I'm at F1 and learning the BTS of like how this thing goes from freaking Austria to Australia. So I have like my own personal goals, but really just like bringing people hate FOMO, but they want it. And,
Yes.
so there's parts of teaching for sure. And then there's parts of like, hey guys, let's go BTS. Let's figure out how your favorite events come to life.
And I love that it may have started out as a passion project, but you could see the potential of it becoming and leading to, different business ventures that you want to pursue.
Mhm.
And so I will say that the way that I researched this and set up my suggestions is exactly for that. So
Okay.
it's to position you to where if you wanted to keep it a passion project, you can. But then if you wanted to be strategic and use it as a way to funnel people into a DIY course or to work with you one-on-one or even for speaking,
Yeah.
I think that this all will set you up for that. So I am going to share my Google tab. The next piece is the podcast SEO. Now, SEO in the podcast players is somewhat the same, somewhat different. Like people will go into the search bars. They're not typing full on sentences, but they're typing maybe keywords or phrases.
Mhm.
So let's start with your keywords and categories first. So you are hosting in Buzzsprout, and I also use Buzzsprout and always recommend Buzzsprout because they're amazing. This episode is not sponsored by Buzzsprout, but if they would love to, I would welcome them.
Holler at Leah, just one time.
So, and they've recently changed things on their dashboard.
Okay.
So, like the podcast info per se is now not in the tabs on your screen. You have to go to the top right in settings,
Okay.
and then it'll say podcast settings, and that'll bring up the screen that'll have like your title, your description, all the things.
Okay.
On that page, right beside it at the top is like a tab, more or less. It says advanced. And under advanced, there's a place that says keywords.
Okay.
And I believe that it's 255 characters
Okay.
to put in there. Now, this would be keywords for your podcast as a whole.
Okay.
So thinking about like holistically, not necessarily granular, like down to episodes, but like what you want to do with the podcast as a whole. So I've come up with some keyword phrases that would be really great for your show. So like event consulting tips, event planning consultant, event expert advice, how to plan a successful event planning hacks, and all of these other ones that I have listed here. And so essentially, like if somebody goes in and types in any of those things, right, you have a better chance of your podcast coming up.
Okay.
And that's kind of like how you want to go with the tagline for your podcast. I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth, but I want to make sure I cover this all. With the tagline of your podcast, you also want to put that into Buzzsprout.
Okay.
Because that's also keywords.
Okay.
For instance, I'll show you my back end here for the podcast. So like I have my name of the podcast, but then I also have my tagline.
Okay, gotcha. So that's
yeah,
right.
And it would go here.
Okay.
And then here's the advanced tab, and your keywords would be here. So it says 12, but it's 255 characters that would go in here. And so, so having that there. Another thing too is...
Oh, I didn't know that you could have multiple categories. Sorry, I'm just seeing.
Yes, and I'm going to get to that because I have some suggestions for you for that too.
Okay.
The podcast creator, where your name is, I would put some of your titles. Speaker, author. Do you go by event planner or consultant?
Consultant.
I would put event consultant, and then speaker, if you want to put author, because I know you're also an author.
Yes.
I would put those in there.
Okay.
And you could do for such and such, or you could just put your titles in there.
Okay.
I like putting the for in there just because it's just more keywords, right? More opportunity for you to get found.
Okay.
So yeah. Okay. So we'll go to the category since you said that. Now, Apple only recognizes the first category.
Okay.
But there's other directories that will recognize all three.
Okay.
So I'm going to switch back over to this tab. So right now, I believe your main category is entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
So I have broken down some different ones just as a suggestion for you.
Okay.
The first one I would put in would be, instead of entrepreneurship, I would do how to. Because this is speaking to that educational, actionable nature of your content, right? Like behind the scenes guide, all the stuff. Yes, it's a broader category, but it helps whether you are a DIYer or whether you are a professional and wanting to hire you as a coach or help with the event. And then obviously the tactical spaces too.
Right.
The second one would be business, and then the subcategory for entrepreneurship. Because if you want consulting clients, that would be a great way to do that.
For sure.
And then the third, or if you didn't want to do business entrepreneurship, here's the thing. Quite honestly, the primary, secondary one, secondary two, I would use those three.
Okay.
And then like the last two, you could, every 90 days, you could evaluate. And if you felt like it wasn't fitting, you could always change that up, right? So like I would do it every 90 days. So that way you can give the players time and your analytics time to see if it's working. But the next suggestion would be the society and culture. I would probably lean more towards leisure, maybe, or fashion and beauty, depending on how much pop culture you're leaning into.
Yeah. I like society and culture because, I think my best performing episode. So right now I'm biweekly, and I'm sure we'll probably talk about that as well.
Yeah.
Is I was reacting really quickly to something that went viral. And I was able to do a lot of, it's like, I was an investigative reporter for this episode. Okay.
I love it.
I was like New York Times and all these other reputable sources. I'm pulling these sources and finding people and who were there and all this other stuff. It was probably one of my most fun episodes to put together. It was probably a little stressful because it was outside the usual cadence. I had to make sure my editor was ready me to do it in a short turnaround time. But it was fun and it was super timely. I think Met Gala did well as well because, of course, I made sure that I dropped the same day. So I'm just everyone is talking about it.
Right.
What is it? A lot of people don't know what it is. And so I made it bi-weekly because I was understanding my own capacity. I was just I like being able to batch and if I do 4, that's 2 months worth of content, right? Versus weekly, 4 is just monthly. And I gotta record while I'm still promoting.
Right.
The recording aspect and the doing is perfect. The marketing, I hate it. And it's really ironic because in my day job and my day-to-day life, I do just digital strategy for other people. But digital strategy and digital marketing for myself is always a chore and I hate it. And so I'm just like, set it and forget it. Here you go. Here's a new podcast episode. Bye, guys. See you in 2 weeks. So I know I have work to do on that one. So don't yell at me too hard. I
No.
definitely know. But yeah, so that's been part of it. But I think these 3 categories make a lot of sense for what it is, what I hope to do more pitching to. And, I have some time now where I'm just like, okay, NFL, you don't have to send me to the football game. It's fine. I want people to see and understand, and I'm sure there's been like YouTube videos of like, how does a halftime show come together? But the question that I really want answered is, it's global. The commercials cost $8 million for 30 seconds. It gets a big deal. Everything about it is betted on. The coin flip, the first score, the first touchdown, the first sack, like every aspect of this game is monetized. How do you set up staging on a field that can't have a divot?
Right.
Because if a player flips in said divot, it can impact the entire trajectory of the game. How do you have something that's heavy enough to have dancers on it,
Right.
but not heavy enough to create dents in it? Like, that is the one question I need to ask somebody. The whole purpose of this podcast is to be able to ask someone in the NFL that question.
I love this so much. We need to make this happen.
NFL, if you're listening, please,
And if you
I
know
beg.
someone who knows someone who knows someone,
like, send them my way. Like,
Tanya, all her stuff is going to be in the show notes. Go reach out to her.
Hi, guys. It's your bestie here. I'm here to answer the one question that every event planner in the history of event planner has ever had.
Well, I've even wondered that, and I'm not in the event space, right? Because it is like, it's all fast moving, and everything has to be so structured.
So precise. You can't walk. You're running with staging and rigging and lighting and sound and AV. Like, where are the chords? Like, I have so many questions. So I say that to say, yes, society and culture, I think, would be a really good fit. And, I'm learning as we're having this conversation. I didn't even know that you could have multiple categories. So, I really appreciate all the digging that you did for me.
Yes, you're so welcome. Another suggestion would be to add a trailer. So a trailer is, I like to keep them under 5 minutes, ideally under 3, right? Because it's a short investment that people are making to get to know who you are and what your show is about.
Okay.
The best way to explain it is it's exactly like a movie preview.
Okay. So is it a trailer for each episode or a trailer for the podcast?
It's a trailer for the podcast as a whole.
Okay, perfect. Because I was just like, a trailer for each episode sounds like something.
No. I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's a trailer for the podcast as a whole. And then like in Buzzsprout, when you upload your episode, in the episode, let me see, I'll pull mine up and show you real fast. They actually have it to where you can label it as the episode type as a trailer.
Okay.
So what this does is that it then tells the podcast players that this is a trailer, and it highlights that episode so that people are like, okay, this is a trailer. It's like literally, like mine is 1 minute and 27 seconds.
Yeah.
I have that much time to go in and invest if I want to listen to the podcast, right? So they hear your personality, get to know you.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my gosh, she's the bestie that I definitely need. I'm ready for this podcast.
Perfect. Yes. Okay. I love that.
The next thing that I want to talk about is your description. So I love your description because it's precise and to the point. But we can be strategic here and add in the keywords and just a little bit more about you and what it's going to be about.
Got it.
Now, another thing that I like to do is think about the top Google questions in your niche. And then add those in there because these are also keyword phrases.
Okay.
Right? I like to start out with a question to like bring them in, hook them in. And you're a copywriting genius, so you could probably tweak this to be like amazing, like your bio.
Thank you so much for calling me a genius. Oh my goodness.
You're welcome. So yes, like you'll be able to use your genius and make this even better, right? But this is just kind of like a brief little example that I gave you that was something you could do. So like, and then obviously if you want to change your cadence, you could change that too. But it's just like what it is and what we're doing or what you're doing, right? In each, what's going to happen with the episodes. And then we're going to answer questions like these. And obviously, these are very geared towards making your podcast a business. Now, you could change these based on when you think about what you really want your podcast to do overall long term. You could change these up if you wanted.
Okay.
But these are just some kind of like ideas. And then if you're, dreaming of producing these events, working with top tiers, whatever, you can find these tools and honest conversations here. I mean, you could even put some play in there about your bestie in there. And then, follow now. And then I would always like to add a little call to action at the end about learn more about, your consulting speaking, or you could even put your DIY course and then where they could do that.
Okay.
Or if you have a newsletter, whatever you want the most. Like if you think about the podcast as a funnel or in your funnel, like your podcast would be at the top.
Yeah.
Maybe direct them to your newsletter so they could get a hint of all three or whatever you'd want them to do after reading that description.
Okay. That's smart.
So that's something to think about.
I like that.
And then obviously this could all be tweaked.
Yeah.
But it really helps pull in those keywords. Because we don't want to say stuff it full of keywords, but yes, stuff it full of keywords. We want the people to find you.
Yes. No, that makes sense. And then these questions on the show, I'll answer the questions. Like these are pulled from like when I go to Google event planning, like questions that people are asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
That, or you could even go to Ask the Public is a great one. You can even go on Reddit and see what people are asking on Reddit about event planning, like the top questions that you find on Reddit. And then just obviously like Google. If you're into AI, you could also see if chat could help you out with that.
Okay.
But my top go-tos are like just Googling it and seeing what comes up. Because when you Google something and you're scrolling, it also gives you other things that people have searched for with that topic. So you could also use those too.
Okay. Well, that's helpful.
All right. So the social, which I know that you said the promotion piece is a struggle, which I get because we only have 24 hours in a day.
Yes.
And there's only one of us.
For now, yes.
So I don't want to make it more complicated for you. Start small and keep going. I think that what you're doing is great. I think that if you add a couple of different layers in there, that it could be better. So when I talk about promotion with podcasters, I break it into 3 categories. So it's like social media, guesting on other podcasts, and then also paid advertising.
Okay.
And paid advertising could be like you're paying to be in a newsletter for someone else.
Okay.
Or you are paying for actual advertisement, like in Overcast has like ads that they run at the top banner of their podcast app.
Okay.
Or even Facebook ads and stuff like that. And guesting on other podcasts is an easy lift because you're going to talk about something that you love with someone else that loves the same thing that you love, and you're having a bestie conversation, right?
Yeah.
And that's a great way to reach other people, like pull into their audience and just be seen, help with that visibility.
Got it.
But as far as social media, so when you're promoting your podcast, you don't want to, and I'm speaking from experience because guilty. When I first started in this business, guilty. I posted every single platform there is.
Oh, yeah. No.
All the places, right?
Yeah.
It's not about posting to 10 different places, even though sometimes the gurus will tell you that. We just want to focus on one.
Yes.
Or maybe 2. So like if you want to focus on social media, let's say Instagram or Threads. You have quite the following on Threads. We'll use Threads as an example.
Yeah, which is blown up exponentially and keeps growing, and which is great. So yeah, I think it would be Instagram and Threads. Yeah. I know that one day when I have more time, more capacity, when I say more time, really more money to hire someone to do this for me, is Pinterest.
Yes.
Because like the DIYer, especially the DIY bride, that's where they live. And Pinterest, I know, is great for SEO and all the things. That's like the long term, like in an ideal world, when the podcast itself is monetized, or I have a little bit more money on the side from consulting or whatever to feed. So it's like, hey, this is going to lead to, again, like creating now this ecosystem of event consulting. Pinterest will definitely be part of that. But right now it's just like, hey, it's just me. I love Buzzsprout giving me the ability to create a clip. It's an audio clip. I create the cover in Canva. I post on Instagram. I schedule in advance or whatever. I might change it up I pin it when I post it on Threads. And then I'm like, I'll see you in 2 weeks. I'll see you in 2 weeks. What I hate, but also what I love, Instagram has said that they're going to make it easier to just do reposts. Because right now, this is the problem. There's a ton of great content that I love sharing on my event podcast socials. To reshare, like you got to have like a third-party app. And I'm just like, Guys, it's right, just a reshare button. It'll keep the same creator. I don't need the credit. I'm not going to pretend it's my
Right.
content. I just want to share it with my audience because I love it, whether it's floral arrangements, a brand activation, talking about the Met Gala and all this stuff. Like, I would have way more content that's not mine that I don't have to build if they just gave me a easy way to repost other people's content.
Yeah.
But allegedly it's coming.
Good.
I saw a rumor, I saw a post on Threads about it. So we'll see. But I definitely agree with you. Just the two platforms. I don't have space for anything else. I definitely have way more of a reach on Threads than I do on Instagram. So it would be definitely those two platforms.
And Pinterest, too, is so underutilized for podcasters.
Yes.
I have someone on my team who does Pinterest, and she wrote a blog post about podcasters and Pinterest. It's so good. I can link that below. And she's also doing my Pinterest for my podcast and just for my business, too. And I will say that, especially in your niche, the DIY, yes. And it lives forever. You're not playing with algorithms. It's SEO, right? And
Yeah.
yes. So yes, when that time comes,
podcast,
do it.
yes. Pinterest, I learned when I was doing my certification in digital marketing was like Instagram or something like Twitter is the shortest, obviously. It's like 15 minutes. But like the shelf life of a Pinterest post is like 3 months to like 5 years. I was like, that's wild.
Right.
For anyone else who's listening and, you're not necessarily in my niche, but you're in something where women are your target demographic and you want to be in a place that's not super oversaturated, like it's also like a really good search engine.
Yes.
See, this is the thing. I know the things, Leah. I just don't have the time to apply the things for myself. And that is the problem.
I get it.
As I said, that's definitely the goal for sure. Especially right now, I am working on the event consulting agency. I'm hoping to launch that on my birthday, which is August 3rd.
Well, happy early birthday.
Thank you. So all of this will just be, feeding into it and making the podcast work for me a little bit harder than it is now. Again, right now it's something that a couple hundred people listen to, and I'm happy about that, right? I think not focusing on the numbers also eliminates the stress and making sure that I'm like, if I was standing in a room on a stage in front of 100 people, that's a lot of people.
Yes.
So I value the small numbers, and sure, it would be great when it's like 1,000 and then, I can get sponsors and all these other things, but I can't bully other people about their brands and say, start small, grow big, and then try to go from 0 to 100,000 overnight, right? I'm not Caller Daddy and I'm not Joe Rogan. I'm realistic.
Well, that too. And then thinking about those 100 or so people, like how many of those people could potentially be converted into, a client. I will say that while not focusing on the numbers is great, I would say maybe every 90 days or so, peek into your numbers.
Yeah.
And look to see, make sure that it's either staying the same or growing. Obviously, we want growth, right? So just peeping those numbers out for growth. And then also what episodes are people gravitating to more? Are they wanting more of you and your expertise? Are they loving the conversations that you have because they feel like they're a bestie at coffee, hanging out with some people and talking about all the fun things?
Right.
Especially when you have the NFL on. I mean, we're all going to be there for that.
I love this manifestation.
Yes. Okay. I know that you don't have a lot of time for promotional pieces, right, or bandwidth. So my suggestion would be, how do you feel about going live? Do you do stories and stuff like that? Like going live?
I love stories and I would happily go live. And that's definitely been one of the things that has been suggested to me. The people who yell at me for having an audio only podcast. And I'm just like, guys, podcast came from iPods.
Right.
Okay? It is an audio platform. The minute it is a video blog, it's a vlog. Words mean things.
Yes.
And I'm very adamant about the very first episode. Like in the intro, I'm just like, you're listening to me while you're folding your laundry. And I'm very proud of you for that. Because, first of all, the laundry just stays needing to be folded and put away. But also, I know that I'm the podcast that you're listening to while you're doing something else.
Yes.
That is the goal and the intention. Because you're more likely to listen through instead of, oh, I had to pause and I got to go back. And then you never go back. Right? People have the attention span of a gnat. If I can be what's on in the background when you're multitasking, I'm okay with that. I've built that into mine. That's why it's 30-ish minutes. Sometimes I've gone over, but sometimes when the conversation's good. If you want more, send me a DM. But to answer your question, I think incorporating lives into season 2 will probably be the best way for me. Because one, then I don't have to worry about editing anything. I can't afford a video editor. Right now, I am solo dolo. I was unemployed for the majority of 2025. So I'm just like, guys, when we say the budget is teeny, the budget
Yep.
is teeny. But lives, especially on IG, I think would be an excellent way to do more pop culture viral things. Because then I can I can hop on my phone and be like, okay, guys, we've seen this conversation and it's trending on TikTok. Let's talk about it. And, leave the podcast for when I'm doing a deeper dive or it's something that I can talk about in a month.
Yes, because if you do this strategically, you could do one before the episode drops or the day that the episode drops. And then you could do another one a couple of days later after the episode is out and maybe have like a conversation, ask people to do questions or things like that. In addition to, you could invite your guest when you have guests on to answer like maybe one more question.
Okay, I like that.
Come join us. I have one more question, kind of like the anticipation. Or just have a chat about the episode with your guest. So that way you're also, I don't want to say wrangling in their audience, but being able to really lean into and use their audience. Because that would be an easy lift too, to be able to bring that in. And then you can still post like your audiograms that you're doing, I think, which is really great. Another option that would be an easier lift would be to create a template for like quotes for the podcast.
Yeah, I was doing that in the beginning and then I was just like, oh, but that requires me listening to my own podcast.
Not necessarily. So this is where if you're a fan of AI, you could ask AI, take your transcript, have AI, you could give it parameters, however you want it to set that up, and it could pull a couple. There's also a couple different tools out there. Cast Magic is another one that will pull quotes and things like that too from your transcript. You would just upload your audio and it pulls like a variety of copy things. And then obviously you could tweak it or, the quotes are just quotes from your transcript, but that's something to think about too. It also depends on what your audience resonates with. If they love your lives because they're saying they want more video of you, I would just stick with the lives.
Yeah. But I love the idea. I mean, I believe there's some folks who may argue, but like those kinds of quotables, like if you pull 52 quotes, that's one per week for the year, right? It's the easiest lift of being consistent. And then every Monday or every Wednesday or whatever, it was just like quotable Friday or whatever it is. People look for it. And if nothing else, it keeps you consistent on that one thing. So yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I had even started, but again, fell off, turning the podcast into a blog, like just 750 words to post on LinkedIn.
Yes.
So go back to doing that. And then that's also, things that can go into the newsletter.
Yes.
Some people prefer to read, right? There are some people who actually read the words. Listen, I won't toot my own horn about a lot of things, but I'm just like, the content is great.
Yeah, I would agree.
And so I think in what I know about content is if you do it once well, it can yield you 7 different pieces of content.
Yes.
And so I just need to be better about not just doing 1 or 2, but trying to get it to at least 3 to 4 pieces of content. So a blog, a quote, an audio, a live podcast itself, that's 5 pieces.
Yes.
And I would be happy with that. And I think that it's all doable. It just requires sitting down and planning, etc. So this is really helpful in terms of getting my brain going. It's been a hard year for me personally and professionally. So this is something that gets my juices going and gets me excited for planning for season 2. There's a ton of folks who had said yes to wanting to be on.
I love that.
That I'm looking forward to just reaching out to and pitching more. So this has been amazing. I really love how thorough you were in the research of what I'm doing, like what I'm hosted on. I love that we're hosted on similar things. So like I know what you're doing. I'm just gonna copy paste. Switch out some words. So I really appreciate this and I'm really excited. And now like you're my fake accountability partner.
Yes.
So that we can circle back and be like, Leah, I did it. I did it for you. And WWLD. What would Leah do?
I love it. I'll be in your DMs. I do that with Rafer, and he probably is like, oh my goodness. No, he says he loves it. He's always like, he goes to his wife, he's like, Leah just sent me this. I have to do it right now. And I was like, no, you don't have to do it right now. But it's just suggestions.
Listen, I call myself an event bully, which was one of the titles, but I was just like, no, bullying is just not a nice connotation. But I'm just like, I bully with love, guys.
Yes.
So I definitely appreciate the support. And, we'll be proud to share like this episode when it goes live and then circle back and be like, listen, y'all want to work with her. Like I did it when I was poor and sad and now I'm thriving and great.
I love it.
So I'm really excited.
So good. Thank you so much. I will make sure that all of her links are down below. Is there any place you want to tell people to come follow you on Threads?
Yes. Follow me on Threads. I'm a delight there. I talk a lot about a lot of different things. And then the event consulting agency is IOE, Impact Over Everything. So IOEagency.com. I'm very excited about it. It's pretty and I'm really amped. So those would be the two places that people can find me at the most for the next little bit.
And then definitely go follow the podcast because we're all going to wait for the NFL episode to drop because they are going to reach out to you. All right. Well, thank you so very much for your time. It's been great.
Absolutely.
Okay. And we will chat soon. Thanks, everybody.